Yep, I just got the notice. Okay, let's call the meeting to order, make sure that we have a quorum. And I see 4 of us, Johnny, Sarah, Barbara, and myself. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, super. Okay. Next thing on the agenda is to see if we want to change it. Does anyone have any adjustments that they want to make to the agenda? Perfect. Do we have any comments from any of the citizens that are present, either in person or on Zoom, that do not have to do with the pre-application and the site plan application we have on the agenda tonight?
Saying no.
Great. Then let's go to Sam Moody's application or pre-application to expand the boat storage yard on Route 1.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Can I share my screen to show the plan?
You can try.
Set the wrong way.
Yeah, it says the host has disabled screen sharing.
Yeah, I didn't realize that you were going to do that today.
Okay. That's all right. Everybody has the site plan that we submitted.
Yep.
Okay. So I am Alyssa Pulver. I'm with Gartley and Dorsey Engineering and Surveying. And then Matt Moody is also on the call here. He is the owner of Muscogee Bay Storage. And so there is an existing storage building on the property, and Matt is looking to construct an additional storage building identical to it, to the east of the existing one, and also some self-storage pods between the 2 storage buildings. The storage buildings are for boats, RVs, cars, large vehicles of sort. And this is due to an increase in demand, and he's looking to accommodate all of the demand that he's having currently. So you'll see there are no changes to the existing entrance, existing signage there. That's all going to remain. There's a gravel driveway around the proposed storage building. This gives enough space for the large vehicles to enter into either side and then exit out the opposite end and then continue out of the property. We also have 2 locations on here for future stormwater treatment areas. Based on the DEP requirements, we are under the 1 acre of impervious area threshold, but if for future development, when that does happen, we will have stormwater treatment areas there, such as under drain soil filters or something like that. But as of right now, those are not needed because we are under the acre of impervious area. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers what we have on our plan right now. And we're just looking for any sort of concerns that you may have or comments before we submit for the final approval.
Now, any comments on the board?
I just had a question, like for my own education. There's some things here that are noted to be like pre or post 2005. What's the significance of that?
Yeah, so the Department of Environmental Protection, for their stormwater management laws, that came into effect in 2005.
Okay,
So anything that was constructed prior to 2005 is not included in the calculation of impervious area.
gotcha. Thank you.
Yep.
If I could ask, so the kind of goldish gravel drive color and then the browner color on the right, is that existing as of today and then the new? Is that, or is it two different materials or what?
Nope. So as you refer to it, the goldish color, that's existing. And then to the right of it, the brown color, that's what's being proposed.
And that's gravel as well?
Yes. Yep. It's all the same material.
And one other question. So the way the slopes and the kind of the way it looks like you're going to be grading, there does seem to be a big drainage system opposite on the Atlantic Highway Route 1 side to the southeast. Is that, is there a culvert nearby that's tying stuff from your property across to that system? It's, I mean, I'm just wondering what the bigger picture is.
There is an existing 15-inch culvert at the entrance to this property. Is that what you're referring to?
Nope, I'm talking about going across underneath Route 1 to the other side. It looks like a big system a little bit further north and, well.
Yeah, yes,
up Route 1
I
to the south.
yeah, I do believe there is a culvert there. We didn't locate it when we surveyed, but I think I recall. Matt, do you know if there's?
Yes, there is, but I believe it's not located on our property. I believe it goes under maybe the abutting property owners. It comes on, it goes under their property and goes under Route 1. I'd have to double check that.
So
Barbara, the reason you ask?
the reason I asked is I was just wondering if it would tie into future development in any way, or that's why the stormwater treatment area is over there, or I don't know of any thinking about how the property eventually, if more buildings go in, how it drains, and I'm just wondering if there's a larger system nearby.
Yeah, so as proposed, the grading that we're doing, it's not going to change the amount of water that goes in that direction. It's just changing the slopes in the area, but the amount of development that goes towards that area is going to remain the same. It's just grading that area. But all stormwater will be directed in the same direction as the existing conditions.
Can I ask what the, just to ask a little bit of information, what does the temporary storage pods mean for? Did I read that in the write-up that they were sort of temporary, or does that mean they don't have a foundation, or what's that mean? Portable.
Matt,
They're portable.
yeah, they're portable.
Correct. It's the same type of, I think it's almost the exact same portable storage units down across from the fitness center that the storage facility has down there. The metal ones, and they just on and they are movable, but they're also used for storage.
You keep going out, Matt. You could go in and out. I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Anybody else here?
Can you still, how am I now?
It's like clicking in and out, like I'm missing half your words. Is it affecting anybody else?
Yes,
Jim, can you hear him?
Yeah, well, I think I heard enough, and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong. You basically described these self-storage pods as similar to the ones across from the fitness center on Route 32. They are portable. You can stick wheels underneath them and move them around if you have to. But I think your intent is they will be here, that they'll stay here. That they're not meant to be moved around and just used as a storage container. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Will they
And-
be on a concrete pad or on gravel?
They will be on gravel.
So do you get a permit for portable storage pods from the CEO? I mean, I'm just curious how it works.
Yeah, so when they come to the town for approval, it will need to be sort of the expansion of the boat storage. It will also include amending it to allow the self-storage uses for commercial use. And then Stan will have to give a permit for those units as well, for the self-storage units.
So if more came on site, it would just go to Stan. After this phase is done, if more portable units came to the site, it would just go in front of Stan?
Right, depending on the size and the timeline for getting them installed. If he does like one every year, then it will. But if he does like just one new unit for the next 10 years, it probably wouldn't. It's a case by case basis.
Okay.
Looking at if I can poke in with a quick question. Two of them, actually. I'm looking at the gravel drive around the existing storage building and the amount of space available to get vehicles and trucks and buses and everything else in and out. And it looks like there is nowhere near that amount of space for access and egress in the proposed building. Is there enough room to actually maneuver?
Yes, there is. We used our traffic turning radius simulator to find that there was adequate space to get an RV in and out of there.
How big?
I'd have to check and see what the program was, but I think it was a typical RV that you can drive. One of the large ones. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with all the RV names.
Well, the reason I ask is that those areas being as small as they are is what keeps you under an acre.
Yes.
And if you can't quite get in there, then you'll need to do more groundwork, and then we are looking at improved areas in excess of an acre and what that entails. It also looks so that's question number one. Question number two is, it looks like the two dotted future stormwater treatment areas might be in the next area that you'd want to expand to.
So actually there is enough space between the two, between the existing storage building and then the proposed,
That's true. Yeah.
to have another one. That's the plan right now. However, that could change down the road. So thinking right now, that's why those areas were chosen for the stormwater areas.
Good answer.
Jim, Johnny had a question.
Johnny, yep, go ahead. Thank you, Max.
Yep, just a quick question. On the proposed building, you store RVs and boats and so forth. Any type of safety concerns like these vehicles leaking stuff, or say that, God forbid, there was a fire, if a fire truck could get in there and that type of thing? Anything of that nature?
Matt, do you have anything in place currently for the existing one?
it isn't a concrete slab. And what RVs are stored, we do provide oil absorbent pads if there's any leaks. And there's plenty of space for emergency response vehicles to get around build. And it kind of back to Jim's question on there being less gravel around O's building. After, using this one for a year and a half, especially on the back side, on the north side of the building that is there, we found out that it was more than enough turning radius and room for RVs and campers to get in and out. So there's really not that much of a need for that much space back. No.
Do you park things, Matt? Do you park the vehicles in the storage buildings?
Yep.
Curious.
I park some people drive them in themselves. So both.
Anybody else have any questions? Do we have any specific recommendations on anything different we'd like to see on the final application?
One question I have, since you're going to have, I've just noticed it's always very quiet around there. So it's not like there's a lot of activity, except when I guess, something's going in or out. But with the smaller portable units, there might be more, people in and out to get to their portable unit. How are you going to deal with lighting?
Yeah, so the intention is to just have lighting off, I believe it's the north side of the existing office building there. And that will provide lighting for those storage areas. So it won't face Route 1, anything that would interfere with traffic.
So right now you just have downlights at the entrance doors at the main buildings? Is that where you're planning on the main buildings?
Currently, there is no lighting on the main buildings. The only lighting we have is motion lights on the west side and south side of the office. When people drive in, a couple lights on, that's only lighting that there is the large building.
Okay. So as far as you know at this point, that's your plan. Yeah.
Is correct. To give people 24-hour access to their storage units, their sub-storage ones, lighting up of the side of the little office building there to illuminate them.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we don't have any specific requests or recommendations on a modified plan. Yeah, I would say get it in and finish off some of the details that are pending.
Sounds great.
Yeah, I was considering asking to see the turning radius and the vehicle size that goes in, but basically that's going to limit what you're going to be able to accept. And the bigger vehicles you can always put in the existing building if you have trouble getting it into the small building. So to me, that's more about how you run the business, not what we permit. So I'm going to let that one be.
Okay.
All right. Anyone else?
Jim, I'll just, if I don't mind me jumping in, just to what Johnny was mentioning earlier for the emergency vehicles.
Yeah.
if the applicants are fine with it, I can show this to Chief Smeltzer and see if has any thoughts on it. And then if he has any recommendations, I can just have that passed on to the Carly Endorsky.
As I recall, you took a look at the original when it came before the board a couple of years ago. But yeah, I think it's always a good idea to run it by him and see if he has any input.
Bless you. Bless you.
Yeah, there's three of them, Susan. There's always three.
No, just two.
Okay. Good. Thank you, Max.
All right.
Good luck. Alyssa, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Night.
Item on the agenda is a site plan permit request for 1584 Atlantic Highway. Who's going to present that one?
So we have Tony Galais in the audience. And are you two also here for, do you two want to introduce yourselves just for the record since Susan's taking the minutes?
Yes, I'm Ryan Ripley. I'll be the manager there. Dana Ripley.
You don't have to turn around. You got the mic right there. Actually, they might be able to hear you better there. Susan, did you get both those names?
I got Brian Ripley and Dana Ripley, and that Brian's going to be the manager. I didn't hear what Dana's going to do.
I'm just a silent partner.
Thank you.
So
Is it Brian or Ryan?
Ryan with an R.
Ryan. Okay.
Brian,
Yeah.
Ryan with an R.
all right, so go ahead and just
thank you.
present.
So what we propose at this property is we already have a private office there right now. We want to open a store to the public for what we're already distributing there. Basically, we want to have hours that we're open. And we also, I think on the site plan, it shows the farm stand that we want there also. Basically, the buildings are already built, they're already being used, and we just want to modify it a little bit to have a storefront, plus to have a takeout. It'd be a farm stand, but we'd sell some food in there also. So the property is right on the front lawn, right out here. Probably everybody's pretty familiar with it. It's right, just right in the same driveway. It's right out on here.
Where the pawn shop is?
That's where we are.
Okay.
So I do have a picture of what it used to look like. I don't know if everybody remembers what it used to look like, but it was not very appealing. We tried to modify, we tried to dress it up quite a bit.
I have a question.
That's what it used to look like.
Go ahead, Barbara.
Could you explain how you plan on closing off that entrance off of Route 1? And you also mentioned you have 4 parking spots marked. Where do they face? I mean, where are they?
They face the building that used to be the pawn shop building. They face that long building that we built. There's ample parking there. There's at least 4 in front of the old pawn shop building, and there's probably 6 in front of the big building, the building that we built.
Okay. And what do you plan on, how are you going to close off Route 1? Because everybody knows it's there. So how do you think you'll handle that?
Well, it's hard to close that off with a gate because we don't want that closing into Route 1. I did contact the Department of Transportation, and they didn't see a problem for us using it during business hours, but we can close that off if we need to. I did contact Douglas at the Department of, what the problem was with that entrance, I have another entrance on Route 1 up by Dow's Furniture where my wood yard is. And they declared that entrance not to be safe. Those two entrances got confused because they're on the same road and they're about a mile apart from each other. And the DOT sent a letter to say that we shouldn't use it. That entrance is right before the veterinarian where we did all the logging up there. And they declared that not to be safe. So we already cabled that off. And they sent a letter to Max, they sent a letter to Stan, so we won't use that. And that was not to be determined down here. That was a mix-up on the entrances. And since then, I've cabled that off. The reason why this blocked off now at the old pawn shop is we don't want a lot of traffic in there, and it doesn't need to be a lot of traffic through there. And it's mostly to prevent loitering at night.
Barbara, if you don't mind me following up.
Go ahead.
So the DOT said that that's fine as an entrance or as an exit, or both?
They just said, however, we determine it was, it could be, it should be an exit, really. I mean, we should be pulling in.
Be an entrance and a right turn only on the exit.
Right.
Okay. I wasn't told any of that from the DOT.
Okay.
So if you have something in writing, I probably will need that forwarded, just for the record.
Okay. They did come down, they did look at it. The DOT is a little bit hard to get a hold of. I did talk to them directly on the phone. And they sent me a certified letter about the other entrance, which what that entrance was about, there wasn't enough line of sight. They needed 550 feet on Route 1 by the veterinarian, and we only had about 475 feet. The line of sight where we are for this permit, there's plenty of line of sight. There's no problem with that at all. But it happened, they inspected all of Route 1 entrances and they inspected that one at the same time. And then that got confusing because they sent everybody a letter to say my Route 1 entrance was not complying, was out of compliance, but they were talking about a completely different property.
Yeah, I think Max understands. He'll just follow through and confirm with MDOT, and if you can provide anything in writing that you have to Max, that would help.
Sure.
I would say that the biggest concern I have with the application are the multiple entrances and exits and traffic. And I would think that the Route 1, I was actually pleased to see that it was being closed off, but now that it's not, I can only see that as an entrance into your parking lot because you got Depot Street right next door. You got people coming out of your business. You got people coming out of Depot Street going in the same direction or opposite directions. That's just a recipe.
I think that was always the plan for the entrance. And that's what I think that was what Douglas was telling me, that it should be the entrance and you shouldn't, you can't make a left-hand turn. If you do anything, you can only make a right-hand turn because there's an island in the way.
Yeah. When you take a right-hand turn and you run into people coming off out of Depot Street, and you have two of them almost side by side. That's the
right.
Yeah.
So it'd be an entrance coming in from Route 1, and it'd be an exit from onto Depot Street.
Question number 2. Thank you for the intro. Is it actually on Depot Street? Because the map that's attached sort of shows it onto the entrance into the town parking lot. Is it actually? Where is it actually?
That's a right of way.
Well, that's okay. The right of way, but is the entrance into the parking lot on this property into the right of way or directly onto Depot Street?
It's a pretty wide entrance and it starts on Depot Street. And then it goes, you're actually turning into my driveway when you're turning. The whole, it basically encompasses the whole corner. It's Route 1 plus it's Depot Street, but you're turning on to Depot Street and then turning on to the town hall for a few feet and then you'd make an immediate right.
where those green lines are on the
Yeah.
plan? And you've got posts there with lights, right? I saw that today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of traffic coming in and out, so when we do have people that come in, it's a very low amount of vehicles that come in and out of there.
Well, to me, that strikes me as the safest way in and out of this property. And,
Yeah.
and you can always use barrels with flowers in them, across your entrance for now. So the only other question I have is, I think I might be thinking about the old land ordinances. Wasn't there an issue about having, maybe it's all different now. I'm not really up to date, but ice cream's going to attract kids, and then we're selling pot products and hot dogs and ice cream right next to each other. Is that an issue anymore, Max? Remember, there used to be like, you can't have stuff near schools, good kids, and blah, blah, blah.
I'm not sure what specific standard that would be. I know the state has some rules regarding distances from, the state has some standards for distance away from schools, but there's really nothing for this type of thing. Although the ordinance that is being proposed, I think I've mentioned this, wouldn't really allow this type of activity because it's within 1,000 feet of the Elm Street, which is a public park at this point. But that's really the only issue. I don't know, but there might be a state standard. This I'd have to I can double check on this for issues of having a type of business that attracts kids being on the same place as a place that has medical marijuana. But I don't know anything off the top of my head.
Max, could I interject something? The other day, I went to the Maine Municipal Seminar, and it was excellent. And they have two attorneys there that questions just like that. They are so intelligent and adept, and you can literally call them, or you can, and
Probably
just,
not now.
and then, well, not now, but you can text them and they know the answer. I mean, they could say, well, this is what the state says, this is what you're, so I don't know if
Yeah,
you use them a lot.
I use them a lot.
Okay, so Brianna. She's the attorney.
I use Brianna. Rebecca's probably the one I use a bit more often.
Okay, yeah.
If the takeout is a problem, if it becomes a problem, that's not why we're really here tonight. We're here for the storefront. But if everything would go through, that we have a farm stand there, that would be great. But if there's an issue.
Brian also has his hand up.
Yes, so to add to that too, as far as the medical marijuana goes, that will be, the only way to come into that will be locked unless they provide us with a medical card, and then we will let them into the door. It's not going to be open to the public per se.
Okay.
It will be on the same property, but you need to be 18 and you need to have a medical card.
It won't be visible, we're going to make sure it's not visible. And you're going to have to provide ID and a medical card to even see the products.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. Is this the glass products and all that, or?
Yeah.
So someone from the public couldn't just walk in there and say, I'm interested in this?
They can, but they can walk into the glass shop and present their ID and their medical card. At that point, there's a wall and a door separating the two. So in order for them to enter into the medical side of things, they have to provide us. We have to let them in.
Okay.
And even to get into the first door, you have beads to get in there.
Mhm.
No kids at all can even come close to even coming to the building.
So is the current use a dispensary now?
It is. It's been there for 2 years.
Registered caregiver office. That's the
You all speak up, please.
Registered caregiver office. Got to make the medical marijuana registered caregiver office. Just a distinction on that.
Okay, so that means that, I don't know a lot about how this works. So does that mean that,
We're not open. We're not recreational.
okay,
We have patients that come in. That's why you don't see a lot of activity down
Okay.
there.
yeah,
People will even say, we don't even know that you're there. That's what we want. We don't want a lot of impact. We don't want to show. I mean, we're doing this as a legal business, and you have to have licenses for all of this. So you really can't even come into that building and say hello without having all of your licenses with you. We can't even legally talk to you about anything unless you show your identification.
We're just serving our patients. Is how that's going.
thanks.
But that's why there's not a lot of traffic in and out, and that's why the gates are closed quite a bit, because if we don't have a patient, we're not open. And they usually call, and we will meet them there. We'll give them what they need, and then if there's no more patients today, we just close the gates.
Okay.
And it's some of it is for security, and some of it is just to keep it clean and no loitering and no anything. When we're done, we're done. We don't. I mean, before the gates were up and everything was up, I would come in the morning, people would be lingering around, they'd be sitting at my, they would just be around, and I don't want that. And I don't think the town wants that. We want it to be clean, we want it to be safe, we want it to be a business, and we want to make money at it, and we don't need anybody there that's not buying our product. We don't want them there. So when you exit this driveway, you'll see, I mean, we've cleaned it, we've done everything that everybody's asked us to do. And besides the shrubs, I mean, I know businesses like to have shrubs out there, but we took them down because the line of sight was a problem. We took those out. We've addressed everything that has come to our attention. And before this meeting, I went to Stan and even to Max. What do we need to do anything? We're willing to do pretty much anything. We want to be a good neighbor, I own a house right across the street. I look at this building. I grew up on this road. I've been here forever, and I don't want a junky building. I want it to look professional.
All right, I'd like to go back, Anthony, this is something that you said earlier, that
Sure.
your primary purpose for this particular application is the glass shop.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Max, if we separate that from the farm stand, and if Anthony comes back later wants to put in a farm stand, will that come again before the planning board or go straight to you and Stan?
So it depends what exactly is happening, but the farm stand, with how it was described, that's something that the code enforcement officer would approve, not the planning board. There was the mention of the hot dog and ice cream stand. That's something that Stan and I would review and can have it go to the planning board if we feel that it should have that public hearing process. So that can be something of a condition that if the ice cream hot dog stand is going forward, then Stan and I send it to the planning board.
Which I don't have a problem with that. That sounds reasonable.
Okay.
Well, it's a
Next, I
change of
think it's-
use, right? So wouldn't that be standard? But is there a problem with doing the two things now? And then if he doesn't do the farm stand, it's no problem, no sweat, right? I mean, I don't even know if there's a doubt that he's going to do the farm stand. It
So-
says right
so
on the
my-
application, glassware, farm stand, hot dog stand.
So
I'm
my
not
thought,
clear, Jim, why
Barbara,
we would bring that up.
was that with the ordinance vote that's coming up in June, even if we say yes on the glass shop, the town could say no. I mean, there's nothing that can happen to it. And,
Right.
and that would create a sort of a different situation. So I think it's a good idea to just keep them separate. And, we can address the glass shop. Do we want to let that go forward or not? And what changes do we want to make to the parking lot to make it safe to come in and out? and then see how that develops with the vote in June. And then if we decide, or if Anthony decides to go for a farm stand or an ice cream shop, I'd like to have it figured out which one it's going to be. Then that can go straight to Stan and to Max. And if they think it needs to come before us, for whatever reason, then we can handle it then. I just think we've got too much of a fruit salad. We're better out to separate the issues.
I think that's a good idea. I think just to,
But I thought that since it's a change of use, it never was a hot dog stand or farm stand, that it had to come in front of the planning board. Isn't that the rule?
No, the change, so that was one of the changes we made in that ordinance, so that when it is a change of use, it's a change of use still falling to that municipal authority. So for example, if they're changing a use to something that the code enforcement officer would deal with, then why have it go to the planning board? Like someone making their own little office somewhere in the rural area. No, Route 1, because I remember that planning board meeting where we were talking about how someone was changing a use from a restaurant to an office. There was this question of why are we doing this? So that's the example I'm given, where if it's just a simple change of use to something less impactful to the site, then it's just going to go to Stan because it's more of a formality at that point. But if it's a change of use to something that does require the planning board, then it's going to come back to the planning board. That makes sense.
Or if more traffic is
Yeah.
happening because of the change of use, there must be another criteria besides.
I do contact neighbors for some of these items. I haven't had too many cases where, Stan and I are reviewing it and then we have to contact the neighbors. I haven't had that many cases, but I do reach out and just say, hey, this is a planned use. Do you have any concerns? And if they say, I want to talk about this at a public hearing, then it'll come to the planning board. Or if we just look at it and it's a smaller lot, there's closer site distance, not that much site distance, or there's concerns about parking. Maybe it's going to be maybe if it was something like this, where it's just multiple uses on one site, we would have it come to the planning board because it's so many items in one.
Okay.
That's right. We gave Stan and Max some discretion and filtering out some of the applications, so they basically to make it easier for the applicants. Because we didn't want to have too obstructive a work process and people getting permits to do fairly simple things. I think we did that a couple of years ago. And then this is a case in point. But this is one, Max, that I think because of the safety issues, the traffic issues, being on Route 1, that this is one that would come back to the planning board if Anthony decides to go forward with any kind of a facility there on the corner.
Okay.
All right. So to summarize, what you're going to do is put an internal wall in that one existing building where the medical dispensary is now, and that wall will have a door in it, and will become with the glass shop on one side. The external access is into the glass shop, and then the access to the dispensary is through the glass shop, through the new internal door into the dispensary, and then back out again. Is that correct?
it's already in place. Yep. It's already
Already in place? Okay.
Yep. Stan's already been down there to check it out. He approved it. He just verbally approved it and said it looked good. I mean, it's not a very big building, so it's not very, it doesn't take very long to inspect it. I mean, it's very small.
There any intent to mark off the parking spaces, to paint lines or anything like that, or is that done?
It hasn't been done, but we can do that for sure. When we, basically that would be an evening thing to do, and we already have the paint, and we just need to paint the lines on the driveway. We've already resealed it. We just need to mark out the parking spaces.
Great. And the intent on the Route 1 entrance, are the barricades that are there going to stay there?
Do something more formal.
We'll do something with flowers and more of a, we'll write a written sign, which is gonna be the entrance and which is gonna be the exit.
We can also do arrows to big white arrows to kind of direct where what's going on too.
On the pavement too.
Yep.
While we're painting the lines. We want it to be safe. I mean, we don't want it to be an issue. We want to do whatever we need to do to make this, so it's a safe. I mean, we want our customers to come back. We want them to feel safe while they're there. We want them to feel safe when they leave.
I would think perhaps a sign there at the Route 1 entrance that's being blocked off that simply says main or entrance on Depot Street or enter via Depot Street would be enough to direct people around the corner to where the entrance is.
Right.
Tony, quick question. As far as security around the whole area, I mean, there's enough lighting, fences, and do you have any special security because of the sensitivity of the nature of the building?
We have a camera inside the building and a camera outside the building. And we put up a fence, so it's visible from Route 1. You have to physically come in. The motion lights are coming on, the cameras are on, and we're going to be installing a camera that will, if anybody enters the building, that will notify the police department.
We'll have window break and
Yeah.
motion sensors inside the building.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Which hopefully the police are.
Well, they're pretty close.
Can't get much closer.
So since so I just want to make sure I understand the glassware shop will be open to the public 18
Over
plus.
18.
So are you planning on changing like the signage or just trying to bring people in more from the road, like make more of a presence, given the fact that you'll now have a storefront?
Basically, it's just for what we're already selling. And we got the sign permits and we put the signs, what we're gonna put on the sign. And Stan did approve those.
Okay.
Nothing, even if it was a lit sign, nothing will be changing in a 30-minute period. I do know that's an ordinance with you guys, so.
If Stan came down, he looked at the signs, he wrote a permit for what we're doing.
Okay.
And he told us pretty much step by step what we could do and what we couldn't do and what they like us, that's what they'd like to see it look like. We were agreeable to all of it. And there is a wheelchair accessible ramp to the building. It's very pronounced, it's very wide, it's very adequate for what we need.
All right.
We basically-
Oh. I'm going to propose a path forward. That I would entertain a motion to approve with a couple of qualifications. One is that the Route 1 entrance be blocked off in a somewhat permanent manner, and that it be made clear that the entrance and exit is off of Depot Street.
And that'd be an entrance only.
It'd be just entrance only on Route 1. Is that what we talked about?
Wait, Jim, can you clarify that one again?
I don't see how we block it off and then use it.
Jim, I may have to confirm, but I think that's something that's left to the DOT. But I'd have to confirm that.
Okay, so at
For the time being, we could just leave the barricades up, and then when we get the approval, we could decide then if we're gonna just do just an entrance with an arrow with a sign.
We could block off half of it too to make it, permanently block off half of that to make it not so open and, open to going out that way.
Well, it's one or the other.
Yep,
People are gonna start getting used to coming into to the farm stand or whatever, and they're gonna get used to something. And it's gotta be, people get used to things very fast.
because if the farm stand does go there, then that's not very safe situation because the entrance is right there.
So I guess,
Why can't we request that the entrance be off of the other street, Max? And we're not saying that it's,
No, I'm only just saying that I have to check with DOT because DOT is in charge of the entrances and exits on Route 1.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying I'd have to check with them if that's something within our actual ability or if it's just DOT deals with the right of way, so it's DOT's call on that. I'd have to check on that.
if it's an
But
issue,
that is something that for 9.2, it stated we will be using street access from Depot Street. That's been approved by the Department of Transportation. We will only use one entrance. So I guess that is a bit of a question mark.
we can use one entrance for now. And if I come to you and say, is it okay? Is it approved for just for the entrance? And we will do everything that you request to make that just an entrance.
If we did a farm stand too type of thing, we could have the big concrete, barriers to separate the entrance from the farm stand if we did go that route to make it safe, if that's an option.
But at this point, we're not going to go ahead with the farm stand. And if we do go ahead with the farm stand, we will come back in front of the planning board and talk to Max and talk to the stand to make sure that will go through, that is acceptable for everybody's.
So it sounds like we circled right around to where we started. Because the permit application does, as Max said, calls for one entrance exit. So we're going to block off Route 1 entrance exit and only use Depot Street. That's one provision.
Right.
Second provision is to put some striping into some paint into the parking lot to make the traffic patterns and parking areas clear, so it doesn't just become a free for all.
Right. We want it to be safe. We want it to work. We don't want anybody to get injured. We want that.
And the last one.
Yep.
Excuse me. Go ahead, Tony.
Oh, we just want it to be safe. I mean, we're not trying to say this is DOT or the town. We just want it to be safe for everybody. I mean, if somebody's walking across that parking lot, we don't want that to be an issue to have any moral liability on us too. We don't want to see that. We want to see that the whole parking lot to be safe.
And the last qualification is that you can't open the glass shop until the results of the vote on June 14th.
There's no ordinance right now, though.
Yeah, it would have to, that condition would have to be reworded to say that the planning board's approval is based on the results of the June 14th election. Because in the ordinance, it has a retroactive date of April 12th for when these standards would take effect.
Max, if that goes through and we kind of give approval, would that trigger a de novo review of the whole project?
It would just
Or would it?
void it would just void it.
Right, and also if they wanted to add the fruit stand and all that, does that mean we would go, again, a de novo review of everything or just?
It would just be
particular-
just the retail store.
Okay.
Right,
But basically, we don't want you to open up a business on the 15th of May that may have to shut down on the 14th of June. Since the ordinance will be retroactive to April. It doesn't make any sense to me that you do that.
We're okay with that. If we're open for a month, there's no ordinance intact right now. If we open for a month and we shut back down, we're already, the business, besides what you said tonight, is ready to open. It's ready to open now. And I mean, that's to say that it gets voted in or out. In the meantime, we'd like to run this business. And if we get voted down with the town vote, we're okay with that. We'll go back to the way we were.
I will I may have to check with the attorney again on that one. Because we have been aware of this, and I believe I did tell you this when it was being submitted, that this was likely going to happen, and that the ordinance would happen, and if it's approved, then this planning board approval is kind of void at that point.
That's fine.
But to open before that happens, I will have to check with the attorney on that. I will check with MMA. I'll send an email probably before I leave tonight. And when I get the results of that, I'll forward that.
Okay.
So what are we left with then, Max, for what we can do?
Well, right now, there's no ordinance to say that we can't do this, right? And if we get shut down in a month, we're totally fine with that.
There's no ordinance now, but I have to ask DOT about the Route 1 entrance. I have to talk to the attorney about whether you could open before this retroactive ordinance occurs. And then there's the hot dog ice cream stand thing that I don't know if you are going forward with that or not. If you are, you might as well just wait until the planning board as well in June. It is up to the board what you want to do. It just depends on, the conditions would have to be worded carefully.
Well,
So
I'm not even going to attempt to word this.
I'm scribbling quickly.
You've got something?
So. Okay. Signage and lines. Lawyers.
We want to run this business. I've been running this business for 2 years now. We do want to expand it, and if we have to take that expansion back out, then that's fine, but I do want the opportunity to run this as long as I can.
Perhaps so minus the two that Jim's already gone through. Perhaps the third condition could be the planning board's approval is based on the decision of the town for the medical marijuana licensing ordinance on June 14th. Then the fourth one could be the opening of the store is based on the interpretation from the attorney, whether it can be open while this ordinance is being reviewed.
Well, so if we were to approve this, like pending the town voting the right way, like that, we don't really need to do that, because if the town votes to not allow this, then it doesn't matter what we said, right? So it's like the planning board can approve this, and then if the town votes against it, then that's
Right.
that. And so I think it's just more like
Yeah.
Sorry.
Then open. I'm sorry. No, you finish first. Sure.
Oh, no, I think it makes sense. Like if you think there's a legal concern, if we approve it, given that there's this potential ordinance pending, like, then we can talk to the lawyer about that and make sure it's okay. But I don't see, I guess I don't see the harm in basically saying, okay, yeah, we would move ahead, given the town doesn't do something to ban it in a month. Like, if we approve it now, I guess I'm not understanding maybe I just don't know enough.
Yeah.
I would be very careful with the language of however we word this, because Tony's right, there is no ordinance. He has a right. And what happens on the 14th, he's taking the risk. So again, I think we should be very careful to make sure what we say is exactly the words we want to say.
Right. But we also, the ordinance does need to be referenced because it is under consideration, and it does have that retroactive date of April 12th. So if we don't have the condition written in there stating that that's what the planning board's permit is based on,
Right.
is pending on, then if it's
Max?
approved, yes.
Yeah, let's try this. So let's run through. So we've got the entrance on Route 1 that we have to close off. We've got signage and lines in the parking lot. But the third one we have is your confirmation with Maine Dot on that entrance, what their intent was, just for information really at this point, because we want it closed off anyway. But then the last two are the ones that count. The lawyer's agreement that opening is acceptable given the pending ordinance. So there's no question we're doing this eyes open. Everybody has their eyes open that we know the ordinance is out there. You're opening at your own risk. If and the lawyers say that that's acceptable. Lawyers have to weigh in and say yes. So that's one of them. And then the last one is, so there's no doubt in anyone's mind, the approval, planning board approval is revoked if the ordinance is approved. No grandfathering, no question marks that we wouldn't approve it if the ordinance is approved. Their other option is to table it for another month, which we can do, and then both the ordinance is behind us. We know where the vote landed. But Tony, that's not what you'd like. You'd like to go forward.
We'd like to
And
go
we're
forward.
willing to help you do that, but there's no questions after the fact that we're all doing this with our eyes wide open, and you might be closing your doors on June 15th.
That's fine. That's completely fine.
So the third condition is to have the attorney weigh in to see if it is fine to open before the ordinance is decided. And then the fourth one is the revoking of it if the ordinance passes.
No, just to for the sake of complete clarity, that it'll be revoked, that our approval is revoked if the ordinance is approved.
Yep,
Right.
I completely understand that.
And the third condition is that I check with the attorney on this.
Yeah,
See if
that's
they can.
correct.
Okay.
Could he be grandfathered? Is that condition possible? I mean, if we didn't put that language in, could this situation be grandfathered?
Somebody could try possibly, but as Max said, it's retro to the ordinance, it's retroactive to April of this year.
We've been running a business for 2 years now without any conflict, any trouble at all. We don't want any trouble in the future either. We want to continue what we're doing. We just want to expand. It's not even really expanding. It's just using what's already there in a different way.
Then,
Well, this is tricky.
Yep.
and then Jim, just because we were on the conditions, the hot dog ice cream stand or just the food vendor in general, that would just go to the planning board if it does have to go to Stan and I for review. That seemed to be a item for the board, correct?
Yeah, I think,
Or do you want to just leave that off this application since it's focused more on the retail?
I'd like it to be clear that that's no longer part of this application. The hot dog stand is no longer part of this application and will be considered separately.
And like, there's potential there that would not need to come before the board again, right, Max?
The farm stand would just need Stan Waltz to approve it.
Yeah.
That's what the code enforcement officer approves. The hot dog ice cream stand, Stan and I would approve. And if we feel it has to, then we'll send it to the planning board.
Okay, so we're not like writing in that they would need to go through a more rigorous review process as part of this. It's not the case.
But Max, I believe there's enough concern here on traffic flow and all that if it does go to the ice cream stand, I would like it to come back before the planning board.
Okay.
I think Barbara was leaning that way too when she was asking her questions before. Okay, so Max, if you would read out what we are going to approve or disapprove, what the motion will be. Would you give us the motion?
The motion would be to accept the application for a retail space at 1580, for a change of use to a retail space at 1584 Atlantic Highway with the following conditions. One, the only access is to be from Depot Street. Two, parking lines are to be created in front of the storage. Three, Max will check with the attorney if the store can open before the medical marijuana licensing ordinance decision on June 14th. 4, the approval by the planning board is revoked if the medical marijuana licensing ordinance is approved on June 14th. And then 5, the approval is only for the retail space portion of this application.
I would just continue that and close it out with the farm to stand, hot dog stand is not considered part of the application. Just to erase all doubt.
Farm stand.
Okay. So that's the motion. Does someone want to make a motion on that?
I actually have a question about it.
Right ahead, Sarah.
Just the entrance thing, are we clear that we have the authority as the planning board to say that that entrance can't be used, or is that something that might still be DOT? That wasn't clear to me.
I'd have to call the DOT on this one.
Okay, so I guess I just don't want to make it, so if the DOT says no, you can't, like, I don't want to make it so we'd have to revisit this, so I don't want the approval to be contingent on that not being an entrance or an exit, but I don't know how strict we are about these things. But
Well, it says on the application that he already got the approval to use the other one. So,
I talked to the DOT.
Max, what was your first?
Go ahead.
The first condition,
First condition?
that the only access will be from Depot Street.
Access egress, right?
The only access will be from Depot Street, yes. I'd have to just talk with the DOT, and if the DOT says you have no jurisdiction on that, then
Well,
we're kind of overridden on that.
I'll do whatever
Right.
I'll do whatever I need to do to make that.
right,
safe.
I'm just saying maybe we should leave that part out of the approval, like, or should we keep it in, and then if the DOT like overrides it, then the approval still stands or whatever is that?
Usually if there's a condition that's overridden, then that's just that one item that's
Okay.
overridden. It's not the rest of it.
Okay, that was my question.
okay, I make a motion that we approve the project as just read out by Max with the, was that a total of 4 points, Max, or 5?
5 conditions, and I'll
Five
read them out one more time. The only
Okay.
access to the site will be from Depot Street. 2, parking lines for the storefront will be marked. 3, the decision for opening will be based on the interpretation of the attorney in case to see if the storefront may be opened before the medical marijuana licensing ordinance is decided in June. 4, that the planning board's permission will be revoked if the medical marijuana licensing ordinance is passed on June 14th. And then 5, the approval is only for the retail store. The farm stand and the hot dog / ice cream stand are not part of the approval.
Okay, I think Barbara
Yep.
made a motion. We need a second.
I'll second.
Sarah seconds. roll call around for ayes. Barbara,
I,
Sarah,
Aye.
Johnny?
Aye.
Jim says aye, so it's unanimous.
So I will send out the clarification to the attorney and to DOT. Tony, if you can send, you said you didn't get anything in writing about what Doug talked to you about with that, right? So I'll talk to him and ask for him to just provide me a written item on that.
I talked to him directly, and he visited the site.
Right. But I need to get something in writing from him. We've had this instance before. And then I'll go collect the planning board signatures. I'll probably just get you two tonight. And then Barbara and Jim, I'll just have to coordinate another time with you. And when I hear back from the attorney, I'll forward it to you.
Okay.
I should
So at that time, it would be acceptable.
You mean opening the store before hearing from the attorney?
No, when you hear from the attorney, I want.
Right. If the attorney says you can open before the ordinance is decided, then
And you're gonna call him. Or you-
MMA, I'll get something in writing just so it's not one of the he said, she said type things.
Okay.
And they are pretty quick actually with the responses.
Okay. When do you think that would be? Like, when do you think you would hear from them?
Well, I doubt they're in their offices right now.
Right.
I'll either hear something Friday afternoon, late Friday afternoon, or I'm going to hear it Monday morning.
Okay.
Max, no planning board signatures until the lawyers have weighed in.
Okay.
The lawyers say no, then there's no reason to.
Well,
Nothing
I
to
should
approve.
also have the conditions typed up so it's not my chicken scratch.
All right. Anthony, Tony, anything else?
No,
Ryan?
that should do it. We'll address everything we need to. And hopefully everything goes smoothly.
You have made a big difference on that corner. It's night and day from
We're trying.
what it
We're
was
trying.
over the last 20 years, so.
Yeah, every property we've done in Waldemar, we've made a huge difference and everybody's commented on it. We want to continue doing it. So we just need to be making money to keep doing it. So we need to, we want to make it even better. So we just need to make more money and we'll make it even better. So.
Well, the future of this one's in the hands of the town. We'll see how things go in the 14th of June.
I appreciate your time though.
All right. Good, thank you. And we're going to continue and approve board minutes. If you guys want to stay, you're welcome to. If you're done, then we're all good.
I'll let you know what I hear from the attorney.
Okay, thank you very much.
Have a nice night.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to have the names of the three gentlemen who are leaving, who were participating in this discussion. I don't need it right this minute, but I for the minutes, I need to know who they are.
Yeah. Well, Tony's still here. Anthony, aka Tony Galais.
Brian Ripley and Dana Ripley.
Brian Ripley, Ryan Ripley.
Brian Ripley.
B is invisible and silent. It's Ryan.
Brian.
Okay.
And then
Tony Galais, Ryan Ripley, and
Dana Ripley.
which Ripley?
Dana.
Dana.
Dana
D-
Ripley.
DANA.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Susan.
All right.
Thanks, Tony. All right.
Okay, folks, I'm on a campaign. Next item on the agenda is minutes from last month. Max and I I think Max has gone through them. I know I went through them and made one or two small adjustments. Max, you got a chance to take a look?
And I believe I made my change with the computer assisted design.
Yes, that's correct. I remember that now. Does anyone have any comments on the minutes that Susan prepared and Max included in the package?
I wasn't there, so
Okay, so you're right.
wonder if they could be approved then if there's only 3 members.
Three is this awkward number that constitutes a meeting but not a quorum, which is a little awkward.
Anything or?
I just have one observation. This was brought up at the seminar. When you have, 3 or more people, so the email that we get, that's the town, when you say TOW.
Yep.
So who gets that as far as just the board members?
Just the board members. Because
Okay.
usually those emails that I send out, it's telling you what to expect from the mail packages.
Right.
And if there's a change in the time, it's a change in the time. Those are still, I mean, it's still.
So those
open.
aren't for public consumption. That's not an ex parte type discussion, or it
If-
doesn't violate the Freedom of Access Act at all?
If someone wants to request those emails, they're certainly welcome to. It's really just nothing.
The only reason I say this, because they made a big deal about that at this seminar, about this Freedom of Access
Yes.
Act. And if you have 2 or more, it's got to be available, because you're discussing maybe sometimes your
Right.
feelings, and, the public is not privy. So I just wanted to make sure we were above board on that.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to be sure that for the site visit, it was just going to be 2 planning board members, just so we don't have to go through the whole process.
Right.
But for the emails, it is still open to the public. If someone says, I want every single email you've sent to the planning board when sending out information, I have to send them all that stuff. But when I do a blind copy and it's just everyone individually,
Right.
then it's no longer a group discussion at that point.
Okay. All right.
It's fun little things like that.
I learned a lot.
So we have a motion to approve the minutes from April 20th.
So moved.
Second,
Johnny, do you second?
all in favor? Sarah?
Aye.
Johnny?
Aye.
Jim? Aye. Barbara
I
abstains because she
I
wasn't
abstain.
present.
Yep.
Okay. So Max, you've got something, the next thing is comments from planning board members, LD 2003, term renewals and land use amendments. All yours,
Yes.
pal.
And I'm looking at the clock and I want to go eat, so I'm going to be quick on these. LD 2003. So that finally passed, got the governor's signature. It is different from what I reported last month. For example, it's no longer, I don't believe it's up to 4 dwelling units. I believe it's now 2. Where essentially dimensional standards aren't going to count for at least the first one. And they are going to be providing some funding for assistance on land use revisions. And most of the policies at least now have a 1-year wait. The state did still do it sort of as an emergency session, so it's automatically in place. And there are some policies, but most of which really don't affect us. But the accessory dwelling units, for example, the land use changes, all that stuff, I believe still waits for another year. I believe July 1st is when that takes place, unless Johnny heard anything from the seminar.
Yeah, she said to be aware the Affordable Housing Act is coming down, and the MMA website, she'll put a whole,
Perfect.
really, she said she's working on it, but be ready for that.
Did she give a date by chance?
She said soon, because she had a couple of people inquiring.
Oh, yeah.
Max, what do you mean the dimensional standards don't count for first one? What do you mean?
So typically what happens is, and it varies by land use ordinance. You'll notice in our land use ordinance, under the minimum lot standards, there's which is right after the land use matrix. I don't have the book in front of me, unfortunately, but it's like at the end of Article 6.
Yeah.
There's that table that says, road setbacks or minimum or maximum lot coverage, and then there's the density, the minimum lot size, which is 5,000 square feet for some areas and 80,000 square feet for others. Typically, if you're doing multiple housing projects, then it's going to be multiplying that number. So it's sort of the density requirement. So if you're going to build a 3-family house in the rural area of this town, you would have to have 80,000 square feet for each of those units. So 240,000 square feet, roughly 40,000 per acre. So, you're looking at 6-ish acres for that lot, or else it's not allowed. For this, it's saying you can have an accessory dwelling unit and the town can't have a dimensional standard that goes against it. So we can't have something that says every single unit. We have to allow at least that one accessory unit to sort of be exempt from that count. So if you live on a lot that's only 80,000 square feet, you have your primary house, and then you can make your one accessory unit that doesn't count towards that restriction.
Yeah, that was always the basic premise of the whole act anyway, right? Is to put more housing on existing lots than the current zoning laws allow.
And as long as the septic and the well can handle those housing units, what a lot of planners, planning boards, and code enforcement officers were a bit scared of was it was initially said to be 4 and then 2.5 times if it's an affordable type project. So people were worried what that actually was going to mean. Does that mean you can have a half acre have now 5 different buildings on there, or it was starting to it was getting very questionable in the early stages.
Okay.
But if MMA is going to be having something soon, then I'll have that prepared for next month.
Great. Bring us forward, Max. What's next?
Term renewals. The favorite thing every year. There are some members who are going to be up for their 3-year terms, and I don't have to know tonight, but usually it would be nice to know before June if these members are going to be renewing it. I believe this year it's Jim and Barbara, and I'm going to confirm that and send you emails separately so that you can answer that in private if you'd like. But that's pretty much just it for the term renewals.
That's good.
And then land use amendments. So I didn't end up submitting, I did not get the land use amendments we worked on the June warrant. And that's because we didn't actually have enough time to do one final public hearing process. We're supposed to have this big advertised meeting that says, hey, come see all the meetings and everything, and have a few days, bit of a longer notice compared to what we usually have for these meetings. So I didn't get that done, but we will have that submitted for November. And I think with how LD 2003 is, I might have to incorporate some of these items. And, initially it was going to be, we were initially going to look at the dimensional standards, but now with LD 2003, I don't know if we want to, because the setbacks are really the only thing left that some people may kind of like, because we have 75 feet from the road and 30 feet. That takes up a good chunk of the town. Some people may say, well, I don't want multiple housing units 10 feet away from my property line in the rural or the residential areas of town. So it's something that I think once we get the actual language from MMA, that might be something, whether the board wants to move forward with or not, it's going to be up to you.
So Max, for the next meeting, do us a favor and work a backwards timeline. In order to get it on the November ballot, we have to have a public meeting by so-and-so, which means we have to have something by so-and-so, and it just gives us a time frame to work towards, or to know that we can't, or what we can and can't do in the remaining time. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I didn't have this on the agenda, so I don't expect us to talk about it, but I sent out a findings of facts draft to everyone. We should have something a bit more formal than what we have been doing. It's just simply reading off pretty much the summary that I have sent all of you. There's just a few things that's recommended in the state language. And then there's the conclusion of law, which is actually something, Jim, you and I would pretty much be doing once an item's approved. But I sent you all a template draft. It's based on what Augusta has done for their planning board. I mean, just take a look at it. If you have any thoughts, feel free to share.
I'm
But-
sorry, you said you did send it or you will send it?
I believe
Sent it today.
yeah, I believe I sent
Today.
it like,
I've
An
been,
hour.
I've been busy. I've been busy.
yeah, I sent it about an hour before the meeting. I got lost today, so I didn't really have a good chance to send it until that time. That's why I didn't expect to talk about it at the meeting. It's just me informing you. I sent that out.
Okay.
It's very intense, Max, to have us sign off on this criteria. To
That's
have,
actually
have
that's
the
actually-
board say that the proposal will have sufficient, will not adversely impact groundwater quality or quantity. I mean, that's asking a lot of
That-
a bunch of volunteers.
that's the criteria in the land use ordinance.
I know, it's kind of intense when you put it this way.
Well, and I'll talk with Julie about if the attorney can review it as well to see what can and can't be taken out and whatnot. I just want to get everyone's interpretation from it. As I say, it's just based on what Augusta did, so feel free to make whatever changes you'd like, and then I'll see if that's still fine. That's all I have.
Ask the attorney specifically how it can be worded so that it's clear that the planning board took these items into consideration, but at the same time, we're in no way responsible if we miss something.
Usually if the applicant lies on the application, then the planning board really can't be held responsible for someone simply misleading them on that. But I'll write that down.
Please, yeah. And in the vein of what Barbara was saying, we're not all professionals here. We can miss something despite our good intentions. And if we do, since we're all volunteers, I don't want somebody looking to me for retribution.
Yeah, you will read through it. You'll find it interesting.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm glad we didn't have time to talk about it.
I'll have that. That'll be more for next month. Although I might have a bit more fun next month. We do have a subdivision amendment. It's someone who just wants to merge a lot, so it shouldn't be too much work. Someone wants to do a change of use to a wholesale business. That's something that does have to get the planning board approval, so that will probably be coming down the pipeline. And I think that's gonna be it for June, but there's still a few weeks until the deadline, so who knows?
Any idea when Seacott is going to come back?
I'll be talking with Chuck and Kevin pretty soon, actually, about a few other items, but I'll make sure to ask them about that.
I'm just curious. Don't want to lose track of it.
Oh, I have not been losing track of that.
Good. Anybody, anything else?
All right.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Yep. So moved. I second it.
Great.
I'm hungry too.
All in favor?